Hello there! Welcome to another episode of the Visual How-Tos. This time, the title of the how-to is Using Smart Clients to Communicate with Windows SharePoint Services Workflows. My name is Patrick Tissegem and I work for a company called U2U based in Brussels, Belgium. Windows SharePoint Services 3.0 has native support for the Windows Workflow Foundation. Developers can create workflow templates, package them as features, hand them over to the administrators who are going to make them available at the level of the site collection, and then have other administrators at the level of the lists, libraries, possibly the content types, have these templates associated with the container, and then information workers going through the steps of starting the workflow and completing all of the tasks that have been assigned to them during the workflow. There is good support within the browser to do all of these different operations, and if you are working with the Microsoft Office 2007 clients, you might have already experienced that from within the clients you can also do some workflow management, start workflows and complete tasks that are assigned to you for the particular document you are working with. What I will illustrate now is how you can build these types of smart clients yourself, have them remotely communicating with the workflow within Windows SharePoint services via a web service called the workflow.asmx, and do pretty much the same type of operations that are supported within the Office 2007 clients. So what I have here is a simple Windows application that has already set a web reference to the workflow.asmx. So if you need to do this, you just go and add a reference and you communicate with the workflow.asmx that is defined and exposed at the level of the site you want to work with. And as you see here, there are a number of web methods that are exposed, and we will see a number of these web methods in action within the code. So let us run the application and see the code in action. The first thing that we are doing here is make sure that we connect to the correct web service. So you can enter the URL to a SharePoint site, and then we're using this to pretty much create the workflow instance, as you see here, and then making sure that we go to the proper one. So we are setting the URL of the proxy instance to the correct path for the workflow.asmx. And since it's a SharePoint environment, we also have to send over our credentials, and in this case we are sending over the credentials of the currently logged on user. The next thing we're going to do is, for a particular document, in this case doc1.docx, which is stored in a document library called shared documents, we're going to retrieve for that particular document all of the associations that the administrators have done within the browser. So pretty much all of the workflows that we can start using for this doc1.docx. So when clicking the button, we enter the code, and what you will see is that with a simple call to the get templates for item web method, passing the URL to the document, we are able to retrieve a blob of XML that is represented as an XML node, giving us the details of all of these workflow templates. So over here, now we see the names of the different templates that have been associated, and then this is the XML that was returned with the call. So we have 4 workflow template elements, and each of the workflow template elements contain all of the details represented by different attributes you can work with. And very important is also the association data element that stores all of the data that the administrator has entered into the association form that was displayed at the time when the administrator pretty much connected the template with the document library. So returning to the browser, what we have retrieved now is the information that administrators and users also will see if they start a workflow, because then they can select 3 possible workflow associations to work with. Now, 2 out of the box and 1 called MSDN approval, which is a custom one that I have associated. Returning back to our application, what we can do now is we can select one of the associations and click the button here, Start Workflow, to create an instance for doc1.docx, starting basically the workflow for this item. We start a workflow remotely by calling the Start Workflow web method, which is a simple one. You only have to pass the URL of the item for which you want to have the workflow instance created. You give the workflow template ID, which is a grid that we have extracted out of the XML you saw previously. And then we also need to pass the initiation data, which is in this case just a copy of the association data, and possibly you can make some modifications in that association data. But that's pretty much an XML node that you have to pass as the value of the third parameter. Now once this is done, we get the notification that the workflow has indeed started, and we can have a look in the browser, going back to our document library. And as you see now here, we have the in progress status that has been set in the browser here, and our workflow status page is showing that one task has been assigned to the administrator. Users who have tasks assigned to them can click here and go into the task detail, and from within the browser or from within the Office 2007 clients, they're able to complete their task. Instead of doing it here in the browser, I'll show you how you can do this within your own Windows application in your own custom smart client. So the workflow has now been started, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this method that is also part of the workflow.asmx. It's called the getToDos for item. So I can give as a parameter the item, and for that item I will get returned all of the to-do items. So the XML you get back is containing all of the tasks, the to-do items represented as row elements, and you get the full detail of a task like the assigned to, the start date, and a lot of other information that you can process within your custom smart client. So for our demo here, we have one to-do item, please approve doc1. Let's see how we can complete this task remotely. And again, you are going to call a web method. This time the web method is called alter_to_do, and the thing you have to pass is, first of all, you need to pass the full URL to the document that you're working with. Then you have to pass the ID of the task item in the task list, and you have to also specify as a third parameter value the grid of that task list. And then you pass a piece of XML containing the values of the task item you want to have modified. And what I'm doing here is I'm just have a small XML that I load and pass as an XML node to the web method. So in this case, I'm just setting the status field of the task item to complete it. And what you will see if we go back to the shared documents library, here in the shared documents library, you will see here that the workflow has been completed and the document has been approved. To summarize, what you have seen within this visual how-to is a quick walkthrough of a small custom application that communicated with the workflow engine that is supported by Windows SharePoint Services 3.0. We communicated with a web service called workflow.asmx. We called a couple of web methods that allowed us to get the possible workflows that we can work with, and then also start and finish, complete the steps within the workflow from within our own custom smart client. It was again a pleasure to do this visual how-to, and I hope you learned a couple of things, and talk to you later. Bye bye.